Right, click the links, join the channel here over at Subscribestar. Get a mailbox, mail me some comics. So Jodie Foster triggers the Coomers, the Chuds, the Chads by saying that superhero movies suck balls, which, you know, is fair enough, and it seems like a pretty reasonable comment about how lame superhero movies are, and that there were some okay ones. Iron Man 2008, for example, for sure, that was a pretty good movie that knew what it was. And always they say, you know, tell a simple story, just tell it the best you possibly can, and that's what they did with Iron Man. They didn't try to make it more than it was, and that's probably why it worked. And plus, Robert Downey Jr. did a great job, and what's her face, Gwyneth Paltrow, I think, with the vagina candles or something. I mean, you hear about those candles, you're like, you're pulling my leg, right? So, no, this is serious. Okay, it was so she's talking to like the superhero movies are a phase, and it's winding down, which like doesn't seem like such a crazy thing to say, except you don't understand the Coomers and consumers who have a parasocial relationship with these Hollywood movies. Because I guess they need to touch grass. Yikes, my guy. Oh no, a 300-pound SJW is telling me to touch grass. Go outside. I have a garden. I have a lovely garden. So Jodie Foster's got this reasonable comment, and she doesn't really go into the real reason, you know, which I go into as often as possible, and I have to use as many euphemisms as I can. That Hollywood is just getting too woke for the moviegoer to justify spending $15 to $20 to go to a theater. And even if it's not the money, it's just you look at the movies offered. I look at Fandango like once a week and say, oh, maybe I should do a video for the channel. It'd be kind of fun to go watch a movie. I look around like, oh, there's really no. I mean, there's nothing I would pay for myself. If you want to buy my ticket, yeah, okay, fine. Then I'll go see a movie. But other than that, there's really nothing good out. So nobody's going to go pay money to go watch a bunch of diverse POC, mid women with a POX background cast in some silly Marvel movie. No offense, if you think those girls are more than mid or something. One of them's kind of chunky, and obviously I'm not one to talk, obviously, but you know I'm not paid to be in Hollywood. If I was paid to be in Hollywood, I think I'd watch my carbs a little bit more. Like the two girls are in shape, and the one girl's a little bit chunky. And you know, it kind of reminds me of Charlie's Angels, one from 20 years ago, with that Asian chick. The chick who's in the Adam Sandler's movie, and Cameron Diaz. So Lucy Liu and Cameron Diaz were in shape. Those chicks were shredded, right? And then you have the fat chick in the Adam Sandler movies who was a little bit soft and chubby in those movies. That was the wire work they were doing. It was probably used double wires to hold her up. Anyway, so these like the Marvels movie that just came out with the, you know, it was all, hey, diversity. Yeah, that's over. Nobody's paying for that crap anymore. So as a consequence, the Marvels lost money. Same for Wish, that animation that came up with the whole what's Wish about? Well, white is bad and black is good. Oh, it seemed like there's a lot of that in Hollywood. Yeah, it's in every Hollywood movie. So the superhero genre is over, but it's over because they killed it with race swapping and vagina power. Superheroes already are ridiculous, but it's somewhat believable when that Thor guy, I think his name's Chris Hemsworth, or Chris Evans, or I don't know who's the Guardians of the Galaxy guy. Not Ryan Reynolds, that other guy who was in Guardian. You know the guy I'm talking. Chris Pratt. I think there's three guys named Chris. It's somewhat believable when they're playing their roles, but when you start putting black people in Valhalla, that's a Scandinavian pantheon, isn't it? Yeah, you bet. It's weird. It only goes one way. Well, when they do that kind of stuff, it's a rainbow bridge too far. So the thing is, yeah, I thought I was clever with that reference. They could have kept the money train superhero genre rolling if they wanted to. All they had to do was go in the opposite direction with casting. Just race swap everyone into the blondest Nordic types that you can, and I bet you the money would be rolling in. Because, I mean, what did Barbie tell you? $1.5 billion movie. It's like, oh, it was a feminist movie. Yeah, was it? Okay, so visually, what was the movie presenting? Oh, it's a diverse background cast. But what about the two main characters? Visually, what was the thing presenting? Oh, anyway. So Hollywood is obviously anti-white, but the audience isn't. They prefer to see blondes on screen. And that's a problem for Hollywood when they're not selling the audience what the audience will pay for. So, Wakanda Part 3, if I was pulling the strings, I would race swap all of them with Germans and make the bad guys black, just to see what the Twitter response would be, which is why I wouldn't get hired by Hollywood. If the Marvels were 2 European girls and 1 Russian, I guarantee it would have made another $100 million. But Disney values replacing the beautiful people of the light more than they value money, so F them in the A and C on their T's. I'm glad their movie bombed, and I'm glad. I think the future of Hollywood, you're going to see a massive restructuring of Hollywood. And at first I said in your lifetime, and then I brought it back down to 10 years, and I look, yeah, probably 5 years. You're going to see something's going to fundamentally change, but you can't continue to make movies that lose $10 million here or $100 million there. Eventually you run out of other people's money. So her comment triggered the soy boy Coomer consumers because they're the only ones who are still watching these woke superhero films. And even they are apparently not watching the movies as much because the movies are starting to lose money. Both of those movies I mentioned, in fact, 8 out of the past 10, either Marvel or Disney movies, are losing money. And at one time for Disney, that would have been inconceivable. They own the best IPs, their name brand, name recognition, all in the Western world. They should be just cranking out hit after hit. And for them not to do that, means something is very seriously wrong with their worldview, which is if you watch some of their, the best one to watch is, gosh, what was that BLT movie? There was a POC movie and a BLT movie, Strange World. I couldn't even get through all of it. I really should have reviewed that thing when that thing came out. I had no idea it was that bad. Anyway, so the movies are starting to lose money. It's not just some, far right conspiracy. Oh, is the far right, is the right wing hurting Hollywood? How? There's enough left wing movies people to make any movie successful. There's enough women to make any chick flick successful. If the movies are losing money, to blame the right wing is insane. How come the women aren't seeing these movies? Oh, because let me tell you what women want. They want romance as the nexus point of movies for most movies. You're always safe with romantic comedy, romantic drama, romantic adventure, something like, what's a good example is Romancing the Stone of a romantic adventure, or was that with Danny DeVito was in the one of them. Anyway, so the longer this genre goes on for, and you see the movies just get woker and woker, the more you realize how really stupid they are. And it was fun while it lasted, but the whole thing just kind of feels silly now. Like, I'm really aware, looking at these movies now, and I dipped out of them a few years ago. If it wasn't taught for the channel, I don't think I'd even be aware of them. How I feel very adult watching what feels like movies made for idiots. And at one time when it started, which is way back in 2008 with this, this reformat of the superhero genre, it was fun. It was fun for a couple of years. And then it just ran its course, and they just couldn't keep it making it fun. They had to start, they had to just turn the woke up to 11. And the thing with a good example of that is I mentioned 2008 Iron Man, when they're in the warm sandy place and they battle some guys from the warm sandy area who were there. And then in the Rock's movie Black Adam, they're back in the warm sandy place, but the bad guys, instead of being warm sandy folks from that region, are like United Nations people with English accents. Like, you just couldn't give it that last little shot of verisimilitude, could you? That you just had to put a little anti-English dig. Or what's that Star Wars movie? Not Andor Star Wars? Is that the one where Pascal guy is? All the bad guys are like the main bad girl is just this Aryan stereotype woman with cheekbones. She looks like out of the Indiana Jones Part 3 movie, where she's just got the super blonde platinum hair. I mean, she looks like a Lana Locktiff type of knockoff character. It's like, she's the bad guy, and they all have English accents, and it's the diverse Bolshevik found family that are the good guys. Weird. I mean, you see this stuff, and then you start seeing it. Anyway, so the thing with Ant-Man was you couldn't escape the feeling that it was all this huge green screen. Why is that not populating? It was all this huge green screen studio, and they even race swapped Kang, which turned out to be a mistake for them because he was unfortunately accused of beating up women. And in his defense, everyone deserves due process, even our enemies as much as our friends. Everyone. But for Hollywood, that's a really bad look. And if you're in the public eye, you would think you would bend over backwards to be very cautious, to not have arguments in public. Or in private. Like, I don't understand people who fight with their loved ones. I don't understand people who lose control like that. You're in the wrong relationship. And if it ever gets to that point where things are starting to get weird, you're much safer off just dipping. It doesn't matter if it costs you. Like Adam Carolla said that, and I remember listening to him in the 90s. He was talking about relationships like that or situations like that. And he said, like, he was referring to somebody who was in an apartment, and for them to move out would have cost them money, and he goes, it's worth whatever money it costs you. The downside is so serious that it's usually going to be worth it for you to just dip out and stay on someone's couch and just anyway. So now they got to swap him out. I don't know, what's this guy named, Jonathan Majors or something. The look on his face annoys me for some reason, and it's a character that nobody cares about anyway because nobody cares about Marvel anymore. So the thing is, Martin Scorsese had a similar comment about superhero movies, but here's where both of them don't go far enough, because in their interviews, they both say things like, well, the movies, these superhero movies are silly. Fair enough, they're just entertainment, but that the movies that they make are much more serious movies that connect with people and are going to stand the test of time. Like, yeah. We'll see about that. Which at one level you understand. Silence of the Lambs, based on Harrison's book and A Red Dragon, is a much darker movie than Iron Man. But is it a deeper movie? And the surface level approach would be for me to just say, oh, of course it's a deeper movie. But after you rabbit hole spelunk while wearing the They Live glasses, you start to look at the old movies differently. And here's something to ponder. Let me say this part carefully. The greatest serial deleter in America was not a guy, not someone who looks like me, if you know what I'm saying. And there are a fair amount of people who make that list who are not the people of the light. But when Hollywood takes this story, I mean, the euphemism is so ridiculous. I know it's almost just. I think most people know what I'm saying. It sucks to not be able to say these things, but there's so many hot words that the algorithm picks up. It's all just so F-slur, G-slur, T-slur, K-slur, R-slur. Anyway, so when Hollywood takes the story, you know what they do too when they take the characters. They let's swap out the races and make the bad guys all look like blonde hair, blue eyes. But the real world events that these stories are based on are not blonde hair, blue eyed people. There are other. Just don't say anything in the comments. Talking about you, Furfit McDeer. You know what I'm saying with that. It's like, oh yeah, we're just gonna. John Grisham's interview goes, yeah, I'm gonna swap it out because I thought it'd be more compelling to make the prosecutor, one group Pox and the evil blonde. Yeah, sure, that's the reason you did it. Sure you did, buddy. Or the publisher talked to you, looked at the original storyline and said, hey, we're gonna need why don't we swap this out? And I guarantee you, it'll probably put $10 million in your bank account, which is something like that is what it did for Grisham because they made the movie, right? It's like, weird how that swap only goes one way. Anyway, even in the fictional Green Mile by King, the poor POC was blamed for the evil blonde man's crime. Or even the Jodie Foster, she was in, I don't remember the name of the movie now. It was a struggle snuggle scene in a bar where 4 European Americans attack her, which is a statistical impossibility. Yet you see those scenes in movies all the time, and before you go, you take the rabbit pill journey, you know what I'm saying? You don't even notice those scenes, and after you put on the sunglasses, you look back at those movies, you're like, oh cow! Every time there's a scene like that in a movie, it's all people who look like you, and it's weird because you look at Hollywood and you realize, oh, Hollywood's evil. Like, they're really evil. They're biblically evil. Yeah, that's what Hollywood is. You can go peruse the FBI tables, and the struggle snuggle scenes that you see in Hollywood are actually non-existent. So that's my point. All of Hollywood is a psych op. It's all a lie to focus hatred on one group of people who look a lot like you and I. So no, Silence of the Lambs wasn't some deep movie. It was just another psych op to brainwash people into accepting a narrative that the blonde man is the greatest evil on earth. People have been brainwashed into this Hollywood op and con op system that they don't step back, look at the whole thing, and realize, oh, almost everything coming out of Hollywood is an op of some sort. Very few movies make it through the Hollywood globalist machine unscathed, because even the people who are making the movies were obviously fans of films, which means they've been swimming in Hollywood propaganda their whole life. And movies now are to the point of being derivative of derivative of derivative. So where they're getting really bad. Lord of the Rings was the last big budget movie that I'm aware of that isn't globalist nerf cancer. But even when they made The Hobbit a few years after that, they had to screw it up and put diversity in some Euro-based village. It was totally bizarre. They even have an elf with a hobbit in remember Kevin Smith's Clerks Part 2, the interspecies erotica. And, you know, I'm sure Tolkien is looking at this and like, what are you doing why are you putting this in why didn't you just follow the books? Which is what they did with the first Lord of the Rings, which is why they were so successful. Peter Jackson said he tried to follow the books as closely as possible. And he did a very good job. Because they're trying to program your brain to think in certain ways, and it was an absolute atrocity. Then you have Rings of Power, which is unwatchable. So Amazon spent $750 million on Rings of Power. So yes, Jodie Foster is right about the genre, and the Coomers, who have a parasocial relationship with the stupid movies, are upset that someone dared to criticize their beloved toy. But they're not even watching the movies, and even though Foster is, I assume, far left, the Coomers Soyboys are triggered because they know that the movies aren't just movies. The movies are pushing their ideology, the ideology of the soy boy, where diversity is their strength, or whatever stupid nonsense they believe in. What diversity, inclusion, and equity? Yeah, that's all cancer. Up. Istaphobe says what? Well, where has it been shown to make better movies? I mean, just speaking in the spectrum of the movies, the field of movies, it's like, where has it been shown to make these better movies? And where is it? Compare movies. Like I said, Lord of the Rings was a fantastic movie. And then they made Rings of Power. It's like, that's a great example right there. They screwed it up with diversity. Go, no, diversity didn't screw it up. Well, I saw the movie myself, and that's my opinion. Oh, you don't count. I represent millions of people. You represent millions of people. That's something you always got to keep in mind. Don't let them gaslight you into thinking you're not part of a much greater picture. You very much are. Anyway, so it's why their response to diversity in comics, Mr. Zach, who is sitting in his car with a comic on his lap and a cell phone in one hand, just talking about comic books. Very well. The guy is very, very funny, talented at what he does, but it shouldn't be a big deal. And he had a very small, relatively speaking, YouTube channel. And most adults, you look at something, you go, you know what, this guy's doing something, somebody's annoying me, I'm not going to put oxygen on the fire. I've had that experience myself. All I do is ignore it, and eventually it goes away. If you engage in it, you know, engagement farming is a thing, and, you know, people are trying to do blood sports and stuff. I get that, but they couldn't just leave it alone. They're like, some guy's got 50,000 followers on YouTube, which is a small YouTube channel, and he's talking about comics with a cell phone on his lap, half the time, unfortunately, showing crotch shots, which eventually he put a lap hijab on there to cover up that. It wasn't a big deal, but they looked at it and they lost their mind, because him criticizing comic books is like, the comic book is like, I don't know, it's not exactly their Bible, but it's like, what do you call it's very close, because it's part of their almost religious worldview. I mean, yeah, it is a religion to them. When you like that much, I don't know who started talking about that. Maybe it was Dawkins or Hawkins or something. Nature abhors a vacuum, and when you get rid of religion for people, they just replace it with globalism, Bolshevism, something like that, something to replace it. They have some belief system, and anyone who's an apostate seems to trigger them, and that's why Zach, his family, and his children got threats from these mentally ill sociopathic people in the mainstream comic industry. And a lot of them were kind of on the periphery of the mainstream comic industry. But to see their response to, at first, Zach, and then Ethan, Van Sciver, and anyone else, it's like the response was totally disproportionate to what they were doing. You watch an hour of EVS and you go, oh, this guy's a comedian. He's a troll. He knows what he's doing. He's smart. He's funny. Don't let him get under your skin, because he's mostly engagement for him. He's selling an entertaining show. And I don't mean that like in a negative way. I mean, he's entertaining, but the left wing is going to be the object of his ridicule, because, I mean, obviously they put so much stuff out there to be ridiculed for. They're just so absolutely ridiculous. But if you're on the left, you go, oh, well, I'm just not going to put oxygen on it. But they can't help themselves. They have to. I mean, Mark Waid and Antarctic Press, the whole thing, to see their response to this guy goes, you know, the left-wing response, and especially Mark Waid, because of that, his comic was at like $200,000. Because of Mark Waid's interference, it went to $400,000. That was all on Waid and the left wing, because everybody likes the underdog, and we like Zach to start with. But because of that and the other response of all these nut jobs in comics, you created something called Comicsgate, which is now to the tune of gross sales, maybe under $10 million, somewhere around there. I mean, it's done pretty well for themselves, for being this something that would not have been as big as it was if it wasn't for the left wing just trying to destroy it. Because people were looking at the left wing and going, oh, you guys are crazy. And, you know, like, you always want to have good enemies, and you look at people's enemies and go like, I don't know if I like all these people in CG, but the people who are against them are like, oh yeah, they're definitely going in the right direction. So they're making comic books, and that outrages you so much enough that you want to threaten someone's children. That's weird. You know, that's weird, right? Or, I mean, there's a long history of Comicsgate. It's fascinating, not for the comics themselves so much, but to see like the culture war response to it. Anyway, I got a little bit off track with that. You see these people, I'll never be sick of superhero. Yeah, except you're not watching the movies. A lot of people aren't watching the movies because the past, I don't know, 80% of the movies from DC and Marvel have been losing money, and you can't continue to make the Marvels and lose. They're going to lose over $100 million on that movie. So you like superhero movies? How come women didn't go see the Marvels? Because women want romance, and they want something like Barbie. Oh, so what was it about Barbie you liked? The truth? I mean, their BS lie would be, oh, it had some feminism story and diversity and all. You go. So it had two of the blondest Nordic types for the leads, just two beautiful people, Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling, just, you know, gifted by nature and you know, a professional dietitian and probably a surgeon, but, you know, it's just two very lily fair people. Oh, that's irrelevant. The movie would have done fine if it was, I don't know, Will Smith and someone else. Okay, yeah. Which is funny I mentioned that because, oh God, was that Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie movie? Which was a horrible movie. Mr. Smith or something? Horrible movie about they're both spies. Just stupid. So they're going to remake it with some pox-walks type of thing. It's like, I mean, it's weird that you're remaking a movie that was horrible to start with, but, so you think the remake's going to knock it out of the park, or how well is it going to do? The right wing istophobes are not seeing the movie. Yeah, so how come like the left wing? Actually, that movie might do okay because it might have like the Wakanda effect, where if you have enough of one tribe of people in a movie, then that tribe will turn out to see it. But Black Panther was kind of a unique set of circumstances. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. Join us over at Subscribestar or the Mail Me a Comic through the mailbox, or become a member here. We're not becoming members of your crappy little YouTube channel. I know. She's been in Hollywood for a long time, so I'm guessing that she must be pretty far left-wing whack job. And plus, she's BLT herself. Anyway, like, comment, subscribe. See you guys all next episode.